Hello and welcome to the CrossFit Harrow Podcast, episode 62. Today we have Sam who joins us. Hello Sam.
Hi.
Good to have you. Sam, first question I always ask everyone when they come onto the podcast is, what brought you to CrossFit Harrow?
CrossFit Harrow, I was just getting bored, to be honest. I've been training since I was 16, so about 15 years. And I was just bored.
Yeah.
I was in the gym, I was following programs, but it just wasn't that fun. I was doing it because I still enjoy working out, but it's different when you're doing it on your own. I'd done CrossFit a couple of years ago, so I knew I kind of liked the format of it. And my wife's sister's boyfriend works in a CrossFit gym down in southeast London in Peckham, and we'd go there and have occasional classes whenever we were down visiting a family. And
had you tried that? That's where you
yeah,
tried it?
Yeah, and just it was seeing them, and their friends from the gym. They do things with them, that kind of thing. And I only moved to South Ruislip 2.5 years ago, and I just hadn't felt like I put out any kind of roots or anything. So this was kind of, I'm quite a shy person, so just going to a regular gym, I don't talk to people. I'll put like earphones in, head down, just get on with my training. But this was kind of I enjoy the training. I like being told what to do, to be fair.
Yeah.
And not having to think about it.
It gives you kind of that like stepping stone. Every kind of like part of the workout, you've got something to focus on, as opposed to kind of just turning up and going, I might do a couple of sets here, I might do a couple of sets
exactly. I'm notorious for it. So if I took any of the CrossFit workouts home, do them myself, get about halfway through and be like, I've worked hard enough. That's going to have elicited a change in my body, that'll do. And I won't push myself. But I will make sure I turn up. So to turn up and be like not made to do it, but you know what I mean.
You've given, like, you've got one foot in the door. You're there. You want to get the best hour, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, again, that was one of the benefits of CrossFit is you're coached the whole time. I've been fortunate enough to have like strength and conditioning coaches at several points through my life.
Was that through your own choice and development, or was that through like work, education, kind of pathway that you take?
Bit of both. So I sort of played rugby through secondary school. We had quite good kind of strength and conditioning, not program necessarily, but we'd like meet up before school 3 times a week, run sprints, do whatever, and I'd turn up to it, and as long as there was someone else there, I'd push myself much harder, because if I have someone watching, then I won't stop.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm on my own, I definitely will.
Yeah.
So I've always had that, and then when I got to university, I played American football.
Oh wow.
And we were quite good at my university team. So we were on like the elite program within the university, because we won national championships and things like that. And so the best trainers at the university would take us separately, and we'd get like personalised programs and personalised sessions, and so we'd have all that to kind of go through. And
that would be quite I would say that would be quite a good experience, amazing experience playing American football at university.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not the most academic person in the world. I kind of treated my university time as pretending to be a professional athlete. I went there to study sports science, and I'd switch off halfway through, because I go, all right, so if we're talking about athletes doing this, then if you want to do this, then you got to do this, and then I'd stop listening, because I just want to know what I got to do to get the result I want, and then they'll explain the whole scientific process behind it, but I'm already gone.
You're already prepared to do the work without knowing what's involved. You just want to know how to get there.
Yeah. But then because I wouldn't learn the scientific processes behind why that's happening, I was a terrible student. But I'd use it in my training and become a much better athlete.
Yeah. I suppose you would have had quite a lot of free time as such to invest in training.
No, exactly. So everything was based around food, sleep, eat. That was it.
Did you look at food like proteins, fats, carbs you needed?
I did. Like, we did nutrition courses, but I mean, I was quite a skinny. I was a really skinny teenager. So by the time I was kind of sort of 19, 20, I just needed to put weight on. I was in the gym. I was tall, and I was playing a certain position where you need to be big, so the whole time was
American football.
Yeah, well, same in rugby as well, to be fair. But my nutrition through school was terrible. I just wouldn't eat. Like, it was bad.
Do you not think that's a kid's thing? Like, you've kind of got opposite ends as children. You've either got those children that eat a lot, and you've got the kids that kind of just don't really eat, but just are so active.
Yeah, I just never thought about it. Like, when I was young, too busy running around to think about, oh, I'm hungry. But then when I was a teenager, it was just, it was stupid.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, because you're like, no wonder I wasn't focused in school, no wonder I wasn't as good at the sports that I was playing as I should have been.
It'd be 8 o'clock in the morning, I know, waiting for the bus, you'd go and get a fizzy Lucozade and a Mars bar. That's what I, and maybe sometimes I'd replace the Lucozade with milk.
Yeah.
And a Mars bar before school.
Yeah, so that was awful. I kind of started getting an idea about it when I was in sixth form, taking my rugby a bit more seriously.
Do you think that was because of the resource available? Or?
I think so, because again, I was studying kind of physical education as one of my A-levels, so you kind of pick things up and you're like, oh, of course, this makes sense now. Because we always ate well at my house, kind of healthy food, a lot of vegetables, but I just completely missed lunch and my breakfast was terrible.
Is sport big in your household? Or fitness?
Kind of. So my dad liked sport, and kind of I followed him. I watched him play football and cricket when he was still able to play. So that's what I played to start off with, and then I went to a school that didn't play football, so I had to play rugby and moved on from there. But he'd take me down to watch football games, we'd go and watch rugby games. We'd play cricket together as well, on kind of like a old village team. It was really good fun. And I got 3 older sisters.
Okay.
One of which kind of likes sport, one of which will kind of watch sport, and the other one hates it. And my mum never liked any kind of physical fitness or anything like that. Although she's starting to cycle now. So that's nice.
That's a positive. She's slowly getting into it. With the American football, were you travelling around the UK? Did you ever go out, in different parts? Did you go to the US? Did you play?
So I never made it to the US.
Was that a thing? You made like?
So some people have done it, kind of from the American football community in the UK, and it's kind of quite closely followed. It's a small, close-knit community, so everyone kind of knows who's making it, who's not. But I was lucky enough to play for Great Britain.
Oh wow!
In the 2013 European Championships. So we went over to Italy for about 10 days and played there, which was amazing. And then I played over in Finland and Sweden as well.
Were these like tours, apart from the championship, were the other tours?
So the other ones were with the Great Britain students team.
Okay.
So they just had one-off games. So yeah, and then kind of American football in Europe, you've got kind of Austria and Germany, you're quite very good, and then you've got the Scandinavian teams, and they all have kind of like semi-pro, like league teams. Which I'd signed for one on my final year of uni, so I was going to finish uni, go off and kind of earn and play and travel around Scandinavia for a summer, but I got injured literally on my final game at university, so I had to miss it.
What was the injury?
I tore my pec off the bone.
That's a nasty injury.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, that actually happened quite a lot. I don't know if you know. In the CrossFit, I can't remember what year, maybe one of the CrossFit games, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they were doing ring dips from quite high or muscle up or something, and a lot of them were tearing their pecs. It was putting a lot of people out.
Gives you a nice bruise though.
Yeah, I could imagine. How long did that knock you back?
A lot longer than it should have done. I got a surgery fairly quickly, because of the timing with the end of my university, because I was moving back home from Birmingham back down to Reading, the NHS physio didn't get transferred. Right. So it's all sorted for you. As soon as you get down there, you're going to get a letter, it's all going to get sorted out. So I was doing my physio, I got down back to Reading and just didn't hear anything. I was trying to chase it up, and they were like, oh, we'll just look into it. And then that was another couple of months later, and I was like, no, seriously, I need to be doing something. And then they were like, all right, we'll start the referral process now. So it was again 6 weeks from that point. So it was about a 4 or 5 month period where I was watching stuff online and stuff, but everything I was seeing was like strong men and bodybuilders and
just not your everyday kind of person.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them were kind of on the gear a little bit by the looks of it, because they were about kind of, they were doing
Yeah,
things that I
5,000.
was told like 10 weeks down the line, they were doing it day 2. And I was like, okay,
Very
I'm not
strong.
going to push myself that far.
5 foot, 100 kilos, can do anything and everything.
Yeah, so I put my shoulder into a pretty bad position, and like the muscles and stuff, and it's all healed badly, and I've done a fair bit of physio since, but not enough to properly really fix it. But then like the next year, I was obviously trying to get back into my American football and pushing it in the gym, and I tore it again, but not completely this time.
Well, I was going to ask, did that injury, obviously knowing that you were going to sign for the Scandinavian team, did that injury have any psychological effects that year?
Oh yeah, I was in a terrible place because I'd known a bunch of people I'd played with through the Great Britain team, and all that kind of, I'd gone and done it like the years before, like between university years. But I was like, I don't want to do that between university years. I want to do it as a finishing thing, and it was going to be like a
send off, sign off kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of, and just to see where I can get the level of my game to.
This is a personal target, personal kind of thing against yourself. Right?
Yeah, and it was a bit of a status thing as well, to be able to say, yeah, I played semi-pro ball in Europe.
Yeah.
But it wasn't to be. It did.
So why did you choose American football? Because you'd gone from playing rugby.
So I had my best friend at secondary school had spent some time over in America when he was much younger. So he knew American football and he played the video games. And being teenagers, we played video games together.
Yeah, I struggle I kind of understand it now, but sometimes I don't.
I learned the whole thing through the video game.
Did you?
Yeah, I played it like religiously from 2004. But yeah, just got madly into the video game. He'd joined the local team. It wasn't that local. I mean, it was local for American football, but
but not
like rugby and school things.
There aren't a lot
I walked to it.
There's not a lot around. I think like round here, I think maybe Wembley. There's one team,
Yeah,
and then there's not one for a long distance.
Yeah, no, they're few and far between, but growing. But yeah, so we'd drive down, and I'd join them in sixth form. I went down and played with them as well. So I'd played both, and when I got to university, I signed up to both teams. But it was the atmosphere. Kind of university rugby's got this whole culture behind it that I'm just not the biggest fan of. And a lot of it was a status thing. So the first things they're asking you is, all right, what school did you play for? Like taking all your details, like height, weight, all this kind of stuff, and pretty much being like, oh yeah, you're probably not good enough for this team. Whereas the American football team, because it's a niche sport, they're like, we want everyone. They're really friendly, really welcoming. They wanted everyone there, so I was just like, it's just nicer being there. So I went and did the trials for both, and the rugby team was amateurish. It was run by the senior guys who were just picking their mates and who went to the same schools that their mates went to and all this kind of stuff. And they weren't watching the game.
Which is a shame, because there's probably a lot of lost talent there.
Well, to blow my own trumpet entirely.
Go for it.
I'd just come off the back of my school had done a rugby tour to New Zealand on my final summer. So I'd been training non-stop for about 2 years for this, and we were playing like pretty decent sides over in New Zealand who were phenomenal, absolutely killed us. But I was in the best shape of my life. Turned up to the practice camp and I scored 2 tries. And they were like, no, we've already got someone in your position. And I was just like, is that it? Is that all I'm going to get? And
after 2 years of like consistently turn up every day.
Yeah, like rugby was everything to me at that time. But then the American football, the setup at the Birmingham University is very professional. Like they pay their coach, the university pays the coach through the sports funds. I don't know how it works. But everything was timed. Coaches were going around. You had coach for about 5 people to one coach, which I'd never seen before because rugby was just like one coach for everyone.
It's like a 30-man squad, right?
Oh, we had about 75
wow.
in that team. But yeah, like professional teams, I think 45, 43. But all the training sessions were timed down to the minute, right? They'd blow a whistle, everyone would move down to the next bit. And I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. Feels professional. And luckily those coaches were very good. Those coaches were associated with the Great Britain team, which is how I kind of made that transition. But yeah, just the culture of it. I miss the game of rugby. I don't miss the culture of rugby.
Yeah, it's a very strong, boyish, alpha male
Yeah, I tried going back to play it a couple of years ago, and you turn up on a Sunday, I'm like, yeah, nice and relaxed, like, there's no prizes here, so let's just have a nice game of rugby and go home. People start throwing punches, I've got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
What's the point in this?
Turn up to work, I had a rugby match yesterday, got a black eye.
So it's just not me.
So you obviously American football, is that something that you still playing now, or after you finished that was done?
Okay, so from tearing my pec, I tried coming back.
Just demands of the sport.
I wasn't as good as I was in my head or how I was before. So to know I'm not doing what I'm capable of doing frustrated me. And I know I could go and play a kind of a lower level, even in this country, and play well. I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. Just because I feel like the time had passed.
And sometimes that's a sensible decision. I think a lot of people tend to just stick at something because they're comfortable with it. But equally, if you know that it's not probably benefiting you, or you're not going to maybe not enjoy it as much, and it's not going to challenge you, then sometimes that we have to lose that social side of things to progress elsewhere. And
it's definitely just turned into enjoyment. That's what any exercise has got to be for me.
And do you look for that? Like, is that purely now, with having done all the stuff that you've done with Rugby and American Football? Is that kind of what you're after? You just enjoy your sessions?
Yeah, I think last couple of years it's just been kind of, you're just about to turn 30. You're probably not going to get your professional football contract anytime soon.
But people do. People hang on to that. You're like, you're not 21 anymore. You're not 19.
Yeah, but then I was still doing the training because I was used to that training. I've been doing that training for kind of 8-9 years. But I was like, why am I doing this? What's the difference between being able to bench this weight and bench this weight in real life? It's like I don't get enjoyment from it. It's just a lot of hard work.
Very interesting that you say that, because a lot of people can't separate themselves from that, of what they were pre-injury, or even the example of now, like pre-COVID, dare I say it, that their fitness condition of what they were then to what they are now, like that was a certain time of your life, and sometimes we have to kind of be accountable and go, right, that was me, I'm going to let go of that now, put that in the past, and I'm going to just enjoy myself or work on something different. Or
because I tried doing that post injury, I was like, everything's a new PB.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what you used to be able to do. But you always think about it, and then
it's one of the hardest things to do.
It really I was trying really hard. I was like, right, I'm taking this seriously. I'm still gymming the same amount of times, but I'm growing up. You feel stronger just being a little bit older. But I was just like, I'm not touching numbers I used to touch.
And really, why would someone be touching those numbers? It's a different. You're in a not necessarily a different environment, but you're in a different headspace. Your life's kind of different. You've got different responsibilities. Whether you're at uni or you're 18 or early 20s, like you're not having to meet the demands of what your job might be now or what your family life's like and stuff like that. That's very interesting that you say that.
Yeah, because it always annoys me when people say they don't have time for things. Everyone's got time for anything they want to make time for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Luckily, I have a lot of free-ish time because of my shift pattern. But you pick what you want to do. You've got to enjoy what you're doing, otherwise you're not going to do it and sustain it, and any kind of health and fitness goals is pointless.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you say that. I could go on about this all day. I think, and we've said it, in a lot of the podcasts that we do when we talk to individuals, and the ones that I used to do about a certain subject, the kind of message, and even that we try to encourage, is like, you have to find happiness in what you're doing, because if you don't, you're not going to stick to it.
Yeah, it's the only sustainable part of it.
Yeah.
Because I've seen, and I work with people that go on diets for a month, they lose loads of weight, they're like, oh yeah, feeling really good about it, and you're like, all right, that might be enough to get them to carry on doing it. And they don't enjoy the process of it, and they're not making sustainable changes to their diet, they're going on a crash diet. Whereas if they kind of brought it down a little bit, they might not lose as much weight as quickly, but over the long run it's sustainable.
But I think it's the happiness element to anything, like even your job. If you're not enjoying your job, then maybe it's something that you need to reconsider and search for happiness in something that you do.
Yeah, and I think that's something I've always done as well. Until my current job, I'd never had a job for more than a year, because I'd know within the first month or so, I hate this.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
What
I can't see
does,
a future in this.
That was one of the things I wanted to get onto of kind of career-wise, that, you know, when you left uni, what did that look like work-wise? Because you're obviously doing a sports science degree. Did you get into anything in that way?
I did my sports science degree because I wanted to become a teacher, a primary school teacher. So I was just like, pick anything, you just need a degree. What do you enjoy? You enjoy sport, do sports science. Terrible reason. Hated it. Like we said with everything else, if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. So I did it. It took me 5 years rather than 3. I ended up changing courses in between. So I actually have a degree in sports physical education and coaching science, which is like the downgrade from the sports science. But it's more practical. I should have, in theory, done that from the beginning, and I think I would have been much happier. So then I didn't want to jump straight onto a PGCE because there's tons of different ways to get into teaching. I wanted to be sure that that's what I wanted to do because I'd had so many like mishaps with my degree. I was like, takes your time, think about it. So I went and worked in a school, loved it. Being in a classroom, bunch of kids, hilarious.
And this is primary?
Primary school. I went back to the primary school I went to.
Oh wow.
So that was really nice. There was a few teachers still there that kind of knew my family. So that was nice, but kind of familiar environment as well. The in-classroom stuff was amazing, but it was talking to the teachers, everything they have to do outside of it, because I still got to just go home at the end of it. They're like, all right, we've got another 4 hours of planning and we have to fill out this paperwork and that paperwork. And I was just like, that's not me. Yeah. I can't do that.
Don't miss it.
So from there, I was just like, right, let's put a spanner in the works. That's what I've been thinking for the last 5, 6 years.
So that made you reconsider your...
Yeah, that was it. No, I wasn't going to do it. So I had to think of something else. So then I went and drove ambulances for a year and a half.
How did you find that? Or is that just something that you wanted to, like, you just search for a part-time job or full-time job?
I mean, I was searching anything. I kind of always wanted to, like, teacher, public service, all that kind of thing. It was always in my mind because I was like, I don't want to sit in an office. Just hated the idea of it.
Have you done it at all?
I mean, kind of. I had one summer job where I was trying to get kids to sign up for, you ever heard of NCS, National Citizen Service? So NCS with the challenge, and I was there, and you'd go into school and do presentations and stuff like that. So that was most of it. But you would sit there at a computer on the phone for
trying to organise
2 or 3 days a week. Which
I think every kid growing up now adult growing up has kind of done some form of office job to try it, and I would say a lot don't enjoy it, and there's only a very small amount that are fortunate enough to get out of it.
Yeah, and again, I think it's priorities. Do you want to get a job that can sustain your lifestyle, and is that enough for you, or do you want a job that you love that not becomes your lifestyle, but is a much bigger factor in it because you're not going to get the money that you get from the other one? And as a payoff, and I've seen people go either way and be very happy. So it's always down to the individual.
Right or wrong. I think different personality types definitely suit different roles.
But I knew for me, I couldn't do it. My day-to-day happiness was more important to me. So I wanted to do something where I'd come home and be like, you made a difference today.
Yeah,
you've done something to someone's life. They're better off because of it. So then I was looking at, so it was in the Red Cross that I was doing the ambulance driving through. And the training course for that was great fun. Learning how to drive an ambulance, great fun. But some of the stuff you go to is not something I could deal with all the time. So again, like a couple months into that, I was like, all right, not loving this.
I would imagine that some of your calls that you would have received would have been almost questionable. Yeah,
and for not always the obvious reason, like so much of it's crap. Like you turn up and someone's just like, all right, so you're going to get us to the front of the queue at A&E. It's like, we're not a taxi service. Or you're driving them to the hospital and their partner's driving in a car behind and they just walk onto the back of the ambulance. They could have just, why don't you just go in the car? So that was frustrating, and then you do go to the more serious stuff, and obviously it's difficult for other reasons, but yeah. I don't understand. Well, they have a massive burnout rate in that, and I fully understand that the friends I know from it, they've either gotten more well-trained or they've quit.
Yeah, We've had paramedics here in the past. I think they've given similar examples of calls and things that happen. So that was a year and a half, done that, and you obviously you didn't enjoy that anymore and kind of reassessed again?
Yeah. So that was when me and my now wife moved, because we were still living in Reading at that point, from the school to the ambulances. But she had been commuting to London the whole time. So we're like, all right, we've done it this way around, let's do it the other way around. So bought a flat in South Ruislip, and I was commuting. I was like, oh, this isn't fun either. So that really gave me the impetus to leave that last job. But I couldn't think of anything else to do. And then I saw London Fire Brigade was recruiting, which I'd looked at before, but you needed to have had a London postcode to do it, but recently changed. So I was like, brilliant. Went for that. But it's like, it took about 14 months for that process to go through.
Wow, what does that process look like?
So, same as anything, application, cover letter, send that off. Get through that. You have to do a maths, English and science online test.
Is it like tough?
It was. Yeah. Like, I'd done maths, science, A-levels and stuff. So I thought, I was like, oh, this is going to be like GCSE, really simple stuff. But the time constraints on it, like they don't want you to get 100%. They just want to see what you're going to do, seeing the clock go down and see how you're doing under pressure and all that kind of stuff. So did that, passed that, then you go to do the interview day, which is you redo those tests to make sure that you were the same person that was doing them online.
The exact same test?
Yeah, exact same test.
I'd have probably given 2 different scores.
Oh,
completely 2 different scores.
I wonder what their like acceptance level is, because I think most people would get different scores, but yeah, it'd be very, very strange to see who the people did get other people to do their online tests for them. But you do interview for an hour with 2 on-station firefighters. You kind of go through their main points, like all the questions you can find online and like forums and stuff. So that was very straightforward. And then you do what's it called? Like a role play.
Okay.
So they tell you about a role play, they give you a sheet of paper and you're like, okay, we're going to go into a room, pretend this is going on. You walk into a room, they've got a paid actor, fully trying to sell it. And you're just, what's going on? You're stood in the middle of this room and there's 4 people around the edge of the room with kind of notepads, seeing how you're reacting to it. And it's all just a bit surreal. So I was kind of like half smiling, half laughing, being like, is this really happening? As this woman's crying about her son that's trapped in a car and I've got to try and calm her down. So you do two of those scenarios, which was fun.
So just empty room, no like fake car or anything like that? It's
nothing,
just a woman,
just you and this woman in the middle of the room.
And the 4 people on their notepads?
Yeah. So you do that, and then
How did you find that? Did you find that you could get into that role play?
I felt like they just want to see you be calm and kind of try and resolve a situation without promising anything or guaranteeing things. So it's just, look, we're doing everything we can. Best people are working on it. You need to just look after yourself right now and just make sure that you're okay. All that kind of stuff. And you're just like, I have no idea what's going on because I don't know what our policies are or anything. So you're just saying what
comes to mind.
Yeah, and the ambulance work helped a lot, I think, for those role plays, because you dealt with kind of like stressed out people.
I don't know where I've seen this or read, but they in your line of work they say not to promise anything because you can't promise.
You don't know.
Yeah, and that's often something that has happened. I think I might have read that in this situation someone had promised everything would be okay and it wasn't.
Yeah, I think more so in medical things, not so much now, but yeah, I mean you just know not to do it just because you have no control over it. We're doing everything we can. You can promise that because you're in control of that.
Yeah, you're doing everything you can. Yeah.
But yeah, anything beyond that, you're a bit silly if you're doing it.
So is that is that pass or fail as soon as you do that role play?
No. So from that, then you go and do a group exercise. So because there's about 10 of you doing it, so then they put 5 of you together, get you to. I think we had to make like a Jenga tower, but everyone's got different roles, and it's seeing how you work as a team. And
that can also be quite hard and maybe frustrating.
Yeah, because you always get the loud one that feels like, oh yeah,
I know
if I'm loud, I'm going to look great. I'd spoken to a lot of friends and it's kind of their interview processes and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, I think I found a niche here. So we were given a task, we were given a time limit, as soon as it starts, everyone's jumping in on all the gear, and I was like, I'll keep the time. So I've given myself an important role. I'm like, guys, you got 5 minutes. So I'm keeping everyone going, and I didn't do anything. I just looked at my watch, and it seemed to work.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have probably been someone to be like, what do you think we should do? Is this the best course of action?
Yeah.
To sit back and time watch.
Yeah.
Essentially. Well, you do need someone.
So it's a vital part of the task.
Yeah.
You've got to complete in the time limit.
Yeah. Did you get any feedback on that?
No, none at all. Because then it was like radio silence for about 5 months after that. Didn't hear if you pass or fail. Just nothing. And then you get a phone call in the middle of the day going like, oh yeah, we'd just like to process you through into the next phase. It's like, oh, brilliant. Okay. Wasn't really expecting anything, but...
Had you kind of written it off?
Kind of. It's one of the things I kept on looking, and then you don't think of it for a while. You're like, I haven't heard no yet, but I haven't heard yes. But like, after the process, you realise it's just one person in charge of the whole recruiting process, it seems. There was only one person that you talked to on the interview days who was kind of running the whole thing. So it must have been, well, because they go through like recruitment freezes all the time in the fire brigade. So I guess they don't have a massive department all the time, but they were doing a big intake at this time. So yeah, there's 3 or 4 and 5 months till we heard from that, and then you go and do the physical day.
I mean, with your background with sport, are you feeling pretty confident with that?
Yeah. I mean, I was quite heavy at this point.
Okay.
Because I'd kept my eating habits from pre-shoulder injury, and not kept the training habits for a while. And sitting on an ambulance, your diet is terrible. You just get sandwiches from shops, and you eat when you can, and then you starve, and then you go and just binge on something else because you're so hungry. So I'd put on a bit of weight. So it was a bit of okay, get ready for this. Oh, you got 3 weeks, brilliant. It's not going to be enough time.
Not a lot of time.
Not enough time to really change anything. So you got to kind of ride the coattails and hope that everything's good enough.
So the physical test, is it very, very physical? Because I know that, like, for example, in the police force, they've been given a bit of stick for their
doing the bleep test to level 5.
Fitness test, yeah.
Yeah, ours is better than theirs. No competition. But yeah, so we turn up and we do 6 tasks, one of which is you have to put together a piece of equipment. They've got pictures of it, it's labelled, these are the steps. You've got to take it all apart, put it all together. And if you do anything wrong, they just tell you which picture you've got to go back to.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's worth to see you working with your hands or under like you have to do it pretty quickly, but you're just looking at the picture after, like you're tightening something, looking on the next picture, getting the next bit ready. And
are you against other people doing this?
No, you'll do that on your own in a room. So that was one of them. One of them was a body drag. So we got like dummies. I think it was a 70 kilo dummy that you had to walk, drag.
And a dead weight like that is quite heavy.
Yeah. But something like that, American football really helped.
Yeah.
Because
you push in, you pull in.
Walking backwards, I'd done that before, just dragging it. As long as you got good grip strength, it was fine. So that was the other one. It was 2. Ladder climb. So you have to climb the ladder, make sure you're not scared of heights, and you've got to do what's called a leg lock, which they teach you how to do at the bottom. You put your leg through, lock it in, and then you let go, and you have to lean back and look down to the ground and shout out. They have like a clipboard with a number on.
Is or a letter. On the ladder?
Yeah. Wow. So you're doing that, you're looking down, you're about 3 stories up, look down, you have to read out what's on their clipboard just to show that you're confident with your heights, and then you just come back down. That's it. So that's 3. Then you've got the, it's like a barbell raise. So it's to make sure that you can take the ladder off the truck. So you have to be able to get a 30 kilo weight to a certain height, which for me was about here. So
it would have been 5 times that.
It says there, like you had people like full extension on tiptoes trying to get it up and all this kind of stuff.
I needed the yellow pages.
Just there. So that was fine. And then you had a rat run. So you had to put on a mask. It's like a cage sized. I don't really know. 2 levels of it. It's like a little maze thing. You go through it down another level.
Like an air vent kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of like that. But it's all grating. So you get through that, and then you get to the end, and they're like, right, cover your mask. They put something over it, and you got to make your way back without being able to see anything.
Or like feel.
So you got the gear on. You got all the gear on. So I was there just banging away at this thing, trying to find where the gap was in this fence. And yeah, so that's all timed and stuff. So that was, I don't know, that's kind of like the confined spaces training.
A lot of people would struggle with that.
Yeah. I was not comfortable with it at all. No. It was having something on my face. I didn't mind the rest of it, like going through the tunnel and stuff.
Which, ironically, the last 12 months, everyone with a face mask has got very comfortable with that.
Well, not everyone, but much more comfortable than they were. But it is something you just get used to.
Yeah.
Because I hated it at the beginning.
Have you got used to it at work now?
Yeah. When you have to test your face mask at the beginning of every shift, so you got to put it on. And the first time I ever did it, I was just really claustrophobic because it takes up your whole face. It's sucking onto you. You finally need to get this off quickly. Can I get this off quickly? Kind of thing. And but you just get used to it.
Are they easy to get off? If you know.
Not the easiest thing in the world, but they are. Because in like a real job, because you have to put your mask on, then you put like what's called a flash hood over the top of it, so that's another layer that hides all the kind of things that you're tightening so they don't melt, and then you've got your helmet on top of that. So if you're in that situation, if you're panicking trying to undo your helmet and you can't get that off, you're not going to get it off quickly.
Wow.
But you just...
The whole uniform, the whole kit, it weighs quite a bit, right?
15 kilos. Just the tunic and leggings.
Doesn't count with the gas and...
That's another 15 kilos.
Okay. So it's a lot of weight to be moving around day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah. How often would you be called? I mean, it's probably an answer that varies, but how often would you get called out?
Most of the time, it's a couple of times a shift. Not necessarily to anything all that serious, but
have you had some really serious calls?
Yeah. Again, some not pleasant things, but everyone's really good with it within the kind of
network of it.
Yeah, things are in place.
Is there help and support for the trauma that you could go through or see?
Yeah, no, they were really good with it, to be fair. Kind of because you got your watch, your team that you work with. So you work with the same kind of 5-6 people every day. Eat your meals with them, you spend all day with them. So that's a really close-knit group. And because they know you're the new person, they ask. That wasn't nice. How are you feeling about it? If you ever want to talk about it, come get me, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that's nice. They're doing that for the new person. But then they do it for everyone else.
Yeah.
Because I knew someone in the ambulance service. They'd been to kind of 7 or 8 cardiac arrests in a year or something. Fine, absolutely fine. But one after that completely broke them.
Really?
Yeah. Just took a couple months off work. Couldn't deal with it because
I guess it can take its toll, right?
Yeah, and every situation is different, but just because you've dealt with it before doesn't mean you can always deal with it in the same way.
Yeah. So going through all the testing, all the tests to become a fireman, were you kind of getting more into yes, this is what I really, really want to do?
Yeah, it's something that I'd applied for 4 or 5 times before. I applied when I first finished school to the Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service. When I was switching around courses at university, I was applying in the West Midlands, and I'd applied for London before, but I was outside the...
Would they have known that you had applied? Does each...
Nah, they're all completely separate. Okay. But yeah, each time I got a little bit further and a little bit further, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do this. But I was always under the impression that thousands of people apply for one space, you're never going to get it.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of resigned myself to the fact that I wasn't going to get it, but...
So you're actively looking for other things in case...
Well, I had to get another job in that time because...
you have to, yeah.
I needed something, so I was a first aid trainer. So I was pretty straight up with them at the beginning. I was like, look, I've been applying for this other job. I'm still going through the process, but I'm here. So they didn't put me through any extra training and stuff, and I had to do all the crap jobs because I knew I was leaving at some point. But yeah, so I was just doing that, and I was like, oh, I could be a first aid trainer if it really had to happen.
What changes it? Obviously the whole situation that the world's in at the moment. What have you seen? How long have you been in the firefighter force?
Only just over 2 years.
Okay, so you would have seen quite a lot of change from pre to now post, I'd assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Are there things done differently?
Not a huge amount. I mean, you got your masks, you got everything's clean. That whole protocol around that.
You used to do that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we had to clean our masks every shift anyway. We had to there was a certain level because we're coming across dirty environments, so cleanliness was quite a big deal anyway. So on top of the mask and stuff, not a lot changed for us, which I was very thankful for at the beginning. I didn't really notice. It was just less traffic going to work. That was the only change in my life.
Yeah.
I could still. We got the gym at work because it's part of our job. We've got to train a certain amount of time each shift.
You have to keep your fitness. Do you get tested annually or?
So they've only just brought it in, like a fitness test for people within the job already. They were just starting to test people last year when it all started, so then they had to cancel that because they couldn't bring everyone into a single place and have everyone contaminating everyone. But yeah, I mean, it's not as hard as I think it should be. But I mean, you speak to different people and it's better than nothing, because you do see a lot of people, once they're in, they go and sit down, they eat a load of biscuits and don't end up in a good place.
What would a typical day look like for you on shift? So
day shifts, you'll turn up, you have to go through roll call, so you're standing to attention, do a register, make sure everyone's there, make sure you've got all your gear. So most of the time you'll turn up sort of 15-20 minutes before your shift to make sure all your gear's there. Once
Are you responsible for your gear? Or
yeah,
like you have to wash it and stuff like that, or
well, they got like a laundry service. You kind of send it off. So if it does get contaminated with some certain anything that you come across, you just put it in a bag, send it off, and then you have to get your replacement gear that's in a locker. But yeah, it's your responsibility that you've got your gear and it's clean. So you do that. You get told what you're doing that day, so everyone's got their jobs, and then you have to go and test your mask, your set, make sure that it's got enough air in it, all this kind of stuff. You have to go through these checks. And then like the whole week's broken down into like inventories and equipment checks, because you can't check everything every day, so it's broken up, so different days you test different bits of kit. So you have to go through the truck, make sure everything that's supposed to be there is there. It's all got little numbers on, you have to check the numbers so you've got your one and not the one that's supposed to be at some other station, because it all gets kind of lost in a job. So you do that, and that's about the first 2 hours or so of the job. It's just testing equipment, getting stuff out, making sure it's there and working.
Which is such an important role.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning I was like, this seems a bit over the top. Like, we've either got it or we haven't, or what difference does it make? But everything's got a testing record. Anything that doesn't work when you need it to work is going to get checked. Whoever signed it off last is going to get in a lot of trouble. So they were like, you don't want to just sit there and sign it off, because if that comes back to you and you've signed it off and you haven't actually looked at it, you're in a lot of trouble, and it can get really serious. So I was like, okay, I'll make sure I do everything.
But also, like, you know, even the case of like being at a job and you going to use that bit of kit and it not working, you don't want to be put in that position.
Completely scuppered. So we do that, and then we have a stand easy, which is our kind of late morning meal. So someone will go up to cook that as we're kind of doing it, so we'll eat that. And after that, you normally go and do kind of, they're called home fire safety visits. So someone will have called the fire brigade at some point, or they've been pushed through us through other kind of social services saying this person's not in a great way, they need to have their flat looked at, their house looked at, make sure smoke alarms are fitted. And so you go in, test their smoke alarms. If they haven't got any, you put some up, and you go through some kind of electrical safety, candle safety, all this kind of stuff, and making sure, if there was a fire, do you know what you're doing, kind of thing. So you do a couple of them. And then in the summer we've got hydrant inspections.
Okay.
So you see a little FH, or the little yellow H's. In 4 years, every single one of them in an area should be tested by the station. So you've got to go and turn it on, make sure water comes out of it, and turn it off, and go to the next one. So that's.
I always wondered what they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never know.
Really important. And then when you want to find them, you never find them. Then we do them, and then we go back, and then we'll normally go to the gym, that kind of time.
How long's a shift?
So day shifts are 10.5 hours, 9:30 till 8, and then night shifts are 13.5 hours, 8 till 9:30.
Do you prefer night or day?
Depends. Because night shift you don't have as many of the kind of inventory stuff, but
sleep cycle and stuff.
Yeah. but they're not necessarily as interesting, and they can take ages, and depends what you're doing, where you're going. Whereas a day shift, they'll normally go quite quickly because you're testing things, you're doing drills, so you're throwing up a ladder in the training yard, sort of tying knots and stuff and running around, and they can go pretty quickly. Whereas a night shift that's long is long.
There's obviously a lot of kind of CrossFit elements that cross over into your job. How have you found that in terms of physical fitness?
It just kind of overlaps nicely. Kind of, I'm not, because the days gone by when you're kind of in the gym and you're like, let's smash legs today. Can't walk for 2 days. I can't do that anymore. I've got to be able to kind of work optimally any day that I'm on shift. So kind of, I mean, it's not great on the hands, admittedly, but the kind of doing everything, a lot of heart rate stuff, which has helped me a lot. It's just all relevant. It's all grip strength. It's moving stuff. It's being in different positions that you're not necessarily planning on all the time, kind of thing. And it's having that stable base to move.
Because obviously CrossFit being massive in the US for public services, it's relatively big in the UK public services, but maybe not as big as it should be.
No, not as big as it should be. I think the fitness in general in the public services should be improved somewhat. Because my wife's a police officer, so she tells me about the fitness test.
Okay.
And she says the bleep test you've got to get to is barely above a brisk walk.
And
there's people failing it. And it's just like, you're supposed to be able to like chase people down the street kind of thing. Like, obviously not all their jobs is, but
yeah,
it's what you kind of expect from your public service people.
Well, I think it's like, growing up, you'd always think like a police officer would almost be, and the fireman would be ultimate fitness in some respect, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was expecting getting into it, but then you get to the station, not everyone's
in great shape.
Yeah. And you're like, it's a bit of a disservice, really. Like, we're provided with a gym, we're paid to be there, we're in charge of our own food, like, do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the training that should be going on in all the stations. Whereas most of the time you'll get some people that are properly into it, but then you get a lot of people that are just into running, or they're just into their strength training, and it's not, it works for them, but it's not ideal, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, just trying to raise that standard, or just having people physically capable in their jobs.
Yeah, because people have complained. So we have two fitness tests now. One of which is called the Chester Treadmill test, which is 12 minutes. Raising the incline every 2 minutes, which isn't the hardest thing in the world. But they got that.
For a lot of people, they would have gone to the gym and done incline running on treadmills anyway.
Yeah, that's a warm-up.
Yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah. And then if you fail that, then you have to do what's called the Fireground fitness test, which is full gear, carrying equipment, dragging dummies, which is completely different. So I've trained with people that can smash the treadmill test. They can't complete the Fireground test because it's a
very cardio based.
Yeah, and it's someone that weighs about 65 kilos or something. They can walk up a treadmill, but when they have to drag a 70 kilo body 50 meters or wherever it is, they really struggle.
Yeah, see, a lot of like runners, and this is, I have to be a little bit considerate of how I say this. There's nothing to take away their efforts of work rate, but they will often declare themselves as physically fit. But they're not. They're just very good runners, aerobically fit. But there are a lot of other elements to fitness, for ultimate fitness. So often we'll have people come in here and say, I'm fit because I run. And I'm like, okay, that's okay, but that's your understanding of fitness, but there is a lot more to fitness.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you're kind of studying and all that kind of stuff.
I think maybe, the more that people get into different types of fitness will soon understand that there are different elements. It's not just running and it's not just weight training. And
that was something I'd always say to myself in the gym, because I played sports. So when you're in the gym and you're there with the weightlifters who are all stronger than you, it's like, oh yeah, they're stronger, but I can run faster. And then you're out on the track doing sprints with the sprint team and they're all killing you, and it's like, yeah, but I'm probably stronger than they are. And
it's just that gap it's that little thing in the middle.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, but again, it's what you want to do, isn't it? Like what your aims are and what your goals are, and if your goals is to be really good at running, more power to you. But it's not.
Do you think if you hadn't pursued a career in as a firefighter that you would use CrossFit as a method of training?
I think so. just because of the variety of it, and it's what I enjoy.
Yeah.
I enjoy coming down with a group of people doing the same thing. Kind of, it pushes me, and I like being pushed, but not necessarily externally. I'll push myself if I'm around.
What's around you and stuff too.
Yeah, but yeah, if no one else is doing it around me, I'm going home. But yeah, I've always liked being part of a team. I've never played individual sports. I've always kind of liked that security, I guess. And I think it's the same with my fitness, because I have no specific goals anymore. This is better because I'm learning new skills. I'm not getting bored with the same program, because if you're doing a training thing and you're changing the weight maybe a little bit every week, but you're still doing the same week over and over again, whereas every day is different, and I love it.
Good. How are you with managing, I mean, in your job role, managing time to training seems to be, because you've got days on and days off, right?
Yeah, so 2 day shifts on, 2 night shifts on, 4 days off, so I'm first night tonight, so I worked the last 2 days.
Enough for you to get enough training volume, and although you just said, haven't got something specific, but I think for you it's more about, as you said, enjoyment and kind of moving, enough time in the week to get your sessions in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of playing around with it, because I mean, same with at work, we go through phases of doing things on our day shifts and our night shifts, and last couple of months we've really gotten into this like pretty much bodybuilding session, which is 5 sessions, so we try and fit our 5 sessions into our 4 shifts. So I'm doing that with them, and then being like, I want to go and do CrossFit, but everything hurts. And I think there was 1 week where I think I went to the gym about 10 times in 7 days.
Wow.
And I was just broken.
Yeah.
And I took 4 days off, and I was like, I don't want to take 4 days off, but
you have to.
I know if I don't, I'm going to hurt myself. So I'm still working on a balance, which is more me kind of fingers crossed that people at work kind of want to tone it down a bit so I can come to this more.
But I guess, because there'll be people listening going, wow, that's a lot, and that's a lot of volume, but equally at the same time, you've been accustomed to that volume for the last 15 years, so you've built that. You've not done that overnight.
Yeah, and I will have like a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day. I'm eating a ton of food. Like I'm doing everything around it to kind of
support,
give myself the idea that I can do this. But I mean, realistically,
it's not sustainable.
No.
What are the plans for you for the next kind of 3-4 months? One thing I actually do I really like that you've said is that you don't have any specific goals. It's more of a case for you about happiness in just what you're doing and learning new things, which I think is so underrated. I know that we often talk about, when I speak to people, about having, what their goal is or whatnot, or setting goals. But actually, like, if you're in a position where everything else is ticked and you're just in a process of enjoying it, then why not? There doesn't have to be that external pressure.
Yeah, and the way I'd always looked at goals beforehand was kind of like reaching numbers. Like I do have goals, and from the training sessions here, I want to get my double unders. I want to get my toes to bar. I want to learn skills.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's all I'm looking at the moment. The rest of it's just because you're not competing with other people. I'm pushing myself, and we're not repeating the same workouts yet. That's something I'm looking forward to. Once I've been here long enough, I've done the same workout twice, and it shows my score now to then. I think that will be hopefully a good moment, unless it all goes to crap.
So what do the next few months look like? What are the plans for you in terms of your kind of fitness? Is there anything specifically that that you're wanting to get out of training? What does it look like?
I mean, nothing. Learning the skills, getting better at the skills, and then I love my barbell stuff still.
Which is good, because the barbell's just been put back in the cycle, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily the benching because of my shoulder, but and any kind of Olympic lifting, I love it still, and I
big fan
want
of
to get better
lifting,
yeah. Well, that's what I turned to after the injury, because I wasn't hitting the same like squat numbers and stuff. I could improve my technique without having to improve my strength, because my technique was holding me back so much more than my strength was.
Yeah.
That my strength had come down, but if my technique goes up, I'd still be lifting bigger numbers.
A lot of people don't realise that. And I've tried to. I think I put this recently in the newsletter that we sent out, that you can only get as strong as you move. And what I mean by that is that if your technique is not very good and not sufficient, then you're not going to be able to get as strong as you're physically capable of being. But a lot of us sacrifice that for strength.
Yeah, and
ask why can't they get stronger, and that's the reason.
And that's one of the things I'd love to tell my like 18-year-old self.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't chase numbers, chase movement.
Yeah.
Get yourself, because I had to like completely relearn how to squat, completely learn how to deadlift again, because I was just like,
takes
I was doing
time.
everything wrong.
Yeah, and it is boring in some degree because you're not getting what you're used to result-wise of before. But it's a game of patience.
Yeah, because you'd end up pushing yourself, but then you'll have to take 2 weeks off because you've hurt yourself, and then you lose it all, and you're like, oh, I've got to start all over again. It's like, well, if you start properly again right at the beginning, basic
you can start
positioning.
properly at any time, but you just need to do it, properly once, and then you're set.
And that again, something I'm really enjoying. Not playing any contact sports, having those niggling injuries, having a bad wrist, a bad ankle, a bad knee that stops you from being able to do anything.
Yeah.
So actually seeing what I can get out of these CrossFit sessions is something I'm looking forward to in general without having any specific targets.
Perfect. We are out of time. Sam, thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure.
Guys, join us next week for episode 63.